Hearts and Motherwell the winners after damaging Old Firm's stalemate. The body language at the end was instructive. Celtic sprightly, Rangers stunned. 2 goals to the good and utterly dominant in every department, and they get caught by a team that has perfected the art of the 90th minute blow. Aggro in the aftermath. Pushing and shoving and pointing on the pitch. Stalemate. An infinitely better draw for Celtic than Rangers, but really not a whole lot of good to either of them. From Edinburgh. The distant sound of laughter. There wasn't a winner at Ibrox in this 2-2 draw, but there were winners elsewhere. Derek McInnes at the top and Jens Borthel Askew in fourth might have offered up a prayer before kickoff. A draw was what they would have wished for, and their wish was granted. Hearts and Motherwell finished the weekend in a stronger position. Rangers and Celtic? Well, they tore at each other's throats and did a lot of damage. Their respective strengths and imperfections were evident, right until the end of a tumultuous afternoon. It made for a deeply compelling game. Hardcore football that had everything. Brilliance and weakness from minute 1 to the very last act. The psychology was endlessly fascinating. Dreams beyond Glasgow. Hearts and Motherwell rise after Old Firm's stalemate. On a grey afternoon at Ibrox Stadium, football logic snapped like an overstrained goalpost. What began as another high-stakes clash between Scotland's fiercest rivals soon curled into an improbable twist of fate, one that didn't crown a winner on the pitch, but forged victors elsewhere. The Old Firm derby was everything the critics predicted. Explosive, dramatic, heart-and-mouth stuff. Rangers thundered into a 2-0 lead with 2 spectacular strikes from Youssef Chermatai, the second an acrobatic overhead kick that seemed to assert Calvinist certainty over the Premiership title race. Celtic, beleaguered and yearning for a statement performance, looked beaten into silence. Then came the second half, spirited, sensational, and full of Scottish weather-like mood swings. Celtic gradually clawed their way back, with Kieran Tierney pulling one back before Rio Hatate, after 2 saved penalties, converted at the third attempt to snatch a stoppage time 2-2 draw. On the face of it, the point was a sore one for both Glasgow Giants. Rangers dropped 2 precious points, and Celtic merely salvaged their pride. But for everyone else in the Scottish Premiership, the match offered something far more seismic, 2 unlikely beneficiaries, each savoring the wider implications more than the Old Firm's stalemate itself. Hearts, the unlikely title chasers. All season long, Hearts have been living in the shadow of Celtic and Rangers' historic duopoly, a role familiar to any club outside Glasgow. Their campaign wasn't supposed to be a title charge, it was meant to be a statement of progress. Yet Hearts kept marching, grinding out results, staying consistent, and refusing to buckle under pressure. Their recent 1-0 victory against Aberdeen ensured the Edinburgh side maintained meaningful daylight at the top of the table before the Old Firm showdown. Claudio Braga's goal not only secured 3 points but pushed Hearts clear with a commanding lead, a buffer they desperately needed going into the Glasgow spectacle. When the Old Firm match turned into a draw instead of a decisive victory for either traditional powerhouse, Hearts weren't merely relieved, they were vindicated. Suddenly, their lead was more than numbers on a screen. It was legitimacy in a league where legitimacy is hard-earned. With Rangers 6 points adrift and Celtic still needing games in hand to claw back ground, Hearts have suddenly become firm favourites for a title many had written off before the season began. Indeed, odds from betting markets reflect this shift. Hearts are now favourites for the Premiership crown, a rare and historic position for a club outside Glasgow's Giants. In the quiet streets of Gorgie and across the terraces of Tynecastle Park, fans dared to dream, not of near misses or brave runs, but of a season where their passion yields something extraordinary. The Old Firm draw was a mirror that reflected opportunity, one team faltering, another steady, and Hearts driving like a runaway carriage, a true storybook twist in Scottish football. Motherwell, the quiet climbers. If Hearts represent the season's main narrative, then Motherwell embody its undercurrents, the teams quietly rewriting expectations. Motherwell's rise hasn't been as loud, but it's been just as consistent. Recent form saw them produce solid performances, with victories over clubs like Dundee United and a defense that stood firm enough to set new standards. Their usually sturdy backline kept opponents at bay, while their attackers grew in confidence, placing the Steelmen within striking distance of higher honors. They didn't benefit in the same dramatic fashion as Hearts did from the Old Firm draw. They weren't suddenly thrust into title contention, but they did gain ground by watching the Old Firm giants falter. Rangers and Celtic, distracted and drained from their own comeback battle at Ibrox, now face a field of challengers who smell opportunity. And Motherwell are among those ready to pounce. Instead of holding on to mid-table dignity, Motherwell quietly positioned themselves an ominous threat, a club increasingly competitive, canvassing the space that opens when dominant forces wobble. For clubs like Motherwell, the Old Firm draw was not a headline but a helping hand. A league transformed by one game. In most seasons, a 2-2 draw in Glasgow goes down as another chapter in a long-running rivalry, fierce, familiar, and expected to shake nothing but bragging rights. But this was not most seasons. This was a season in which Hearts dared to push the boundaries, where Motherwell threatened to make themselves heard, and where the Old Firm's inability to secure maximum points created room for rivals to flourish. For Hearts, the draw was validation not just of form or tenacity, but of belief. For Motherwell, it amplified the sense that the Premiership isn't merely a two-horse race. It's a contest that can be opened up when giants slip. And for neutral fans of Scottish football, the result posed a tantalizing question. Could this be the year the Old Firm's grip finally loses a little of its vice-like hold? Only time will tell. But as the league table shifts, as Hearts maintain their nerve at the summit and Motherwell close in on the big clubs, one thing is certain. Football stories are often written not just by winners, but by unexpected winners, those who seize opportunity when it presents itself, even when they are not the center of attention.